My name is Cathal Friel. I'm the co-founder and a director of European Green. I technically am a chairman, but I'm already chairman of two other very fast-growing AIM-listed companies. That's Poolbeg Pharma and hVivo. So the AIM team don't allow me to use the formal, but I'm kind of in an acting capacity as chairman. Jack is our CFO. He's worked with me for quite a few years in Raglan. He's been very involved in both hVivo and working with us in Poolbeg. So what I'd like to tell you tonight is what we have here in European green transition, an overview. I think the front page really sums it up. Many of us who invest, I invest quite regularly in AIM. This is my 5th IPO. And the 4 previous ones, we've made our shareholders a lot of money. I'm always the largest shareholder, a cornerstone of it. I'm always the last person to sell. And I'm probably the most overpaid, or my wife would say underpaid, AIM chairman director. I take 25,000 a year out of the company, despite the fact I'm the largest shareholder, but I make my money off the shareholding. I'm very hands-on. 50% of my time is dedicated to European green transition. And for the year ahead, 50% of my time is dedicated to Poolbeg. Both of them, I really want to double or triple over the year ahead. What is European green about? Basically, we all know there's a huge transition in Europe. So everything you see, a picture tells 1,000 words. We are focusing on wind and everything in the wind spectrum, solar, everything in the EV spectrum, and on the right-hand side, that's rare earths. We emphasize we are not a mining company. I know a lot of people say, Carl, what are you doing with a mining company? We so happens at the IPO, we had some opportunist rare earths, and mining assets will come to them. But going forward, the emphasis out of the IPO, substantially less than 20% of our proceeds will be allocated to mining assets. The rest will be on much faster growing, scalable, and less capital intensive assets. Jack, we might just go to the next page if that's okay. This is a very snapshot of the background, but the direction of travel. European green transition, we see a substantial opportunity to build a sustainable. Every company I'm involved in has to get the profits pretty quickly. In the European green economy transition, we know the European green economy is creating huge opportunities. For a lot of companies, it can be a huge pain in the ass. So we're coming in late to it and seeing where we can make money, basically. Our existing green economy assets are located in Sweden, Cyprus, which we announced last week, and in Germany. We will add further assets through M&A. Every one of my previous IPOs said that this is my 5th. It's really the 6th if you include Cove there at the bottom. Cove Energy was listed 2009 for 1 million market cap. 33 months later, it was sold for 1.9 billion. That was about 100x. Share price went from 1.2p to £1.76 at exit. So 100x is pretty good. Now, I was not the founder, but I was heavily involved in that company. It acquired some distressed assets. The next company, I was very clearly the co-founder, put it all together, is Amrit Pharma. We IPO'd that in 2016 at sub 50 million. It was 50 million after we raised the money. And basically 6 years later, it was sold last year for 1.48 billion to KZ. Again, built on M&A, acquiring Birkin, acquired Algerian for a fraction of the invested cash. The next one then was Open Orphan. Today it's renamed. It's the same company as hVivo. IPO'd almost identical to what we did with European Green a couple of weeks ago. Market cap was about 7 or 8 million. Raised 6. Had a market cap of 14 million, and we got it up 10x at one stage. But even at today, it's still up 6x from its IPO price, and with tens of millions of cash in the bank and literally printing money for us. Jack, I might just click on the next page. So, what have we in this one? And I'd say emphasize everything we're trying to do. We try and roll in assets on a very, very low cost way. So at the moment, we're not a mining company, but if we look at this page, there's certainly some mining assets we need to talk you through. The assets are basically around the EV economy. The real asset, 2 assets in this slide, which we're super excited about, is the Ultram rare earth assets. That's in Sweden. Jack's going to take you through that a bit more, but basically every wind turbine in Europe both onshore and offshore, needs very substantial. Onshore needs over half a ton, offshore needs more than a ton of rare earths. So there's a huge demand for those. They're solely coming from China. So there is an emphasis in Europe to build an independent rare earth supply, and that's what this could be. We are not going to be mining those assets. We'll bring in the heavy lifting, the expertise who can bring it to the next stage. And we will try, as we've done on all our projects, to make money for the shareholders, and we're the largest shareholder for ourselves as well. The project, the first direction of travel post-IPO, and say there will be more in the weeks and months ahead, but the first one we brought in as a very low-cost option, or a Cyprus copper tailings recycling project. As many of you may know, there is a very nice business. Jubilee Metals has made a lot of money for shareholders over the years by taking waste tailings on mines and processing them. There's no risk. It's basically a processing, and it's very light capital intensive. The Cyprus one, as Jack will show you a picture in a moment, is producing copper sulfate in huge quantities at the moment, which is better, which can be trapped. And that project is what we're after. Has potential to generate reasonably, not huge, substantial copper revenue within the first year of us exercising that option. Likewise, as you rehabilitate these mines, old tailing sites, there's huge potential to establish solar farms. Again, we will not pay for those solar farms. We'll rent out the space and collect a license fee and a royalty over the power generated. The other existing assets, which we've completely deprioritized, and we probably can make some immediate near-term revenue for the company, would be the copper graphite asset in Sweden and lithium in Germany. We did set this company up over 2 years ago, and at that stage, we all know copper, graphite, lithium, rare earths was very sexy and very in vogue. We like being able to say we move fast, and over the last 12, 18 months, we know those assets have gone off the boil. So we have pivoted away from them. So people may ask how we generate revenue. We will actively move those licenses. We will hold on to the Swedish rare earths because we think we can generate reasonably substantial revenues if things work out well. Finally, we are targeting a broad range of green economy opportunities, such as solar, wind, e-waste, and a really piece close to my heart, we're looking at some carbon sinks, carbon credits, again, where we could scale them pretty rapidly on a low-cost basis. Might just come to the next slide, Jack. I'm not going to bore myself. I've done 4 IPOs. We've generated very substantial revenues. Amrit was 6x. HVivo was at 10x. It's come back today, still up 6x since IPO. And this one, I've said people don't invest in small cap companies for 20% or 30%. You invest in small cap companies on the London name to get 2 or 3 times your money. We all know you can get 15 or 20% in most of the big companies with minimal downside risk. Small companies come with downside risk, but likewise, you're investing. We've guided our shareholders in European Green when we IPO'd at 10p 4 weeks ago that we said within the first year we would like, this is the only aspiration, see can we double the share price, and within 18 months can we triple it. We're up about 40% in 3-4 weeks. That's a good start. But I won't be happy till we see it doubled, and even happy when we see that tripled. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Jack Kelly. Jack, over to you.
Thanks, Cathal. So just quickly, a bit of background on myself. So I'm a chartered accountant by background. Previously worked in PwC's corporate finance team in Dublin and joined Cathal in Raglan Capital about 3 years ago now. And in that time, been working very closely with the CFOs of HVivo PLC and Poolbeg Pharma PLC, and also helped bring together the current European Green Transition company that we have to date. So just to flick over to the next slide, and I guess why we see such a big opportunity in Europe at the moment. So, you know, the EU is finally taking action to secure, to provide security of supply and energy security in Europe at the moment. I think we all know there was a huge over-reliance on China, and this was exposed during COVID-19 and also as part of the recent energy crisis. So with that, the European Critical Raw Materials Act has been signed into law in April 2024, and that mandates that 25% of critical metals are to be sourced from recycling in Europe. So this ideally fits with the copper recycling project in Cyprus that we announced last week. So I'm going to take you through a couple of slides to introduce this to you. So we've taken an exclusive 12-month option on a former copper mine in Cyprus. So you'll see up on the top right-hand side of the screen, this was the old Limni copper mine. So this is a past-producing copper mine, produced over 8.1 million tons at 1.11% copper between 1937 and 1978. So the tailings from Limni and adjacent mines were deposited near the coast for about 30 years. And then in 2010, an EU-funded program was implemented to backfill the tailings from the coast back into the pit. And as you can see, the bottom picture on the right there, the pit's now been filled in. So at the moment, we're seeing metal-rich water circulating within the pit, with oxidized tailings from the copper remnants that are still within the pit. So, there's clearly outflows of blue water from the pit, which indicate that there's copper at the location. We have a few photos we can show you on the next slide. So we see the potential to extract copper from the existing pit waters, and we see there's scope to recover meaningful amounts of this copper in a very, very capital efficient and quick manner. And with that, the site also has the optionality for a range of additional scenarios which can get us towards near-term revenue generation and then long-term revenue generation as well. So if I take you to the next slide to talk you through some of that optionality. So as you'll see on the photos on the right-hand side, this is the blue water that's leaking out of the current pit, and this is rich with copper. So for our copper tailings recycling program, we're looking at doing a low-cost hydraulic pumping of waters and direct copper extraction. So this is a low-impact solution that we can implement very, very quickly and can produce cash flow within 12 months of executing the option agreement. So following that, there's also more conventional tailings reprocessing potential that we can do at the site to unlock further upside from the copper. And as we know, copper is a very exciting space to be in at the moment, with the recent price rises. So the plan is I'm down to Cyprus this weekend, and we're working with some consultants that we know down there and local stakeholders to assess the viability and best route to get to this near-term cash flow in a capital-light manner. And our goal is to move on this very quickly. We have a 12-month option, but we'll look to exercise the option much sooner than that, hopefully, so we can get towards developing the project towards near-term revenue generation. Following that, there's an opportunity to develop a solar power asset on the site. So this land, as you saw on the previous slide, has been the pit has been infilled, and it's not suitable for agriculture or tourism into the future. So we see huge potential for a solar power asset, particularly in Cyprus. At the moment, Cyprus's energy mix is highly reliant on fossil fuels. About 80% of their energy comes from fossil fuels at the moment. So this site has excellent solar capacity as a brownfield site. Additionally, there's an existing power substation on a nearby road, and the wider area supports a significant solar development. So as Cathal mentioned, the plan is to partner with a solar provider and work with local stakeholders to build an energy asset largely funded by a solar operator and developer, and for EGT to retain a long-term income stream from this by leasing out the license. So if I go to the next slide, this is just to indicate, I guess, the solar potential in Cyprus and how untapped it is at the moment. It has the highest solar irradiance in the EU, so it's ideally located for a project like this, and that's why we're hugely excited by it. So I'm going to quickly talk to you about some of the updates we have on our Alstom rare earth project up in Sweden that Cathal mentioned. So this is just a quick update on some of the work streams we've progressed in the last month or 6 weeks. So we're working at the moment towards expanding the project. We've been completing sampling in Djupadal to indicate that this is a district scale system of rare earths at Alstom, and there's currently samples in the lab with results pending in the coming weeks. We've also received permitting to complete our drill program, which will commence in Q3 this year. As well as that, we had the Swedish Geological Survey on site in April, and there's new airborne data available, which will be very useful for us in packaging up this project, ideally to sell or to partner with a larger partner down the line. And as well as that, you'll see in the photo on the bottom left, our CEO, Aidan Lavelle, has been engaging regularly with the local community, most recently last month in Gamleby, the nearby town, and talking them through the project, which is a key importance to keep local stakeholders engaged. So that's an example of two of the projects that we have ongoing, and we have a number of other news flow items that I just want to update you, sort of upcoming items. Something we're very focused on engaging with shareholders, and some of the news flow items we see coming up in the next weeks and months include the rock chip and channel samplings from Jupiter, which I just mentioned, which are currently in the lab and we expect in the coming weeks. As I also mentioned, myself and Aidan are off to Cyprus to kickstart our the copper tailings recycling project we have there. So we're expecting that the due diligence work streams will commence in the coming weeks there, and we're looking forward to updating you as that progresses. We have metallurgical results from Alcerum, which will support the overall package of that asset as we look to hopefully do a deal on it in the coming months. Then we also have the commencement of our drilling program in Alcerum in Q3, which we're looking forward to updating everyone on, and the subsequent results. And then also we have a range of other opportunities that are under review. As we mentioned, this is a very M&A focused company, and we're seeing lots of exciting projects that we think could fit well into EGT, and will deliver additional news flow down the line. So, Cathal, I might hand over to you on this slide.
Jack, thank you very much for that. So hopefully everyone tonight can see that this is, we're quite unusual. I've put a company together with my colleagues, and it's our fifth IPO I've put together, so kind of know what investors are looking for. We're keeping our overheads extremely low. We do see huge opportunities to make money. Small cap companies, that's all you're investing, that's all we've invested. To make money is in the green economy. I'd say we have a proven team. We have a small group of us in the office who work together over a number of public companies, and we have a track record of generating revenue. I keep emphasizing, you're not logged on here, you're not investing on AIM companies to get 15 or 20% per annum. We all know I'm a very active investor in AIM. I do a lot of participating with my spare cash out of one of the companies. I invest in other ones. We don't invest in small cap public companies to get 10 or 15. You invest to try and get many multiples. Doesn't work all the time. So far, I think I've managed with our team to do that quite a number of times. So hopefully we have a track record of generating value. We have, and being honest with you, some of the best deals in the world are if you can buy them at a fraction of the invested cash. So we've identified a further range of distressed acquisition opportunities. We did guide the market that on a reasonably regular basis post IPO, we're not saying when that is, we already have. I'm super excited with the copper one. See, Jack and the team are down. Aidan had worked on that project in 2017, so these opportunities just don't come out of left field. We've been working on them. The original rare earth asset, I was up there in 2012 with another company I was involved, the precursor to Amrit, that had a rare earth asset in southern Sweden. So the last time I checked, that was 11 years ago. So these are not assets we certainly just stumble on. We have a flexible financial model, and the key piece, we've raised 6.4 million. After all costs, everything else, we've got high five something, closer to 6 than 5 of million. We have guided the market. We want to double or triple the share price in the first 12, 18 months. We will make that money go a long way. I emphasize for the millionth time, people think we're a mining company. We're not. We're not a mining company. We have some mining assets. We are going to demonstrate to the market over the coming months how we can probably monetize the non-core ones. And if Aidan and the team gets the right results from that drilling program this summer, we're going to try and also monetize by bringing in a larger partner with a Swedish asset, because that Swedish asset has the potential to be the first rare earths commercial mine in Europe. So that is pretty exciting place to be. It will never be more than 20% of our capex. In actual fact, it'll be substantially less. I'm turning 60 this year. Some people might think I should hang up my boots, but I'm only getting warmed up. And I do have young kids. I have 12-year-old, 14-year-old, and 16-year-old. They're always giving me hassle. Daddy, what are you doing for the green environment? We all know the younger generation are massively more focused on ESG and the whole green economy. So I take great delight telling my kids. I've done a number of pharma companies. My original company was an oil and gas company all those years ago, 12, 13 years ago. So I take great delight telling the kids when I come every evening, especially the young kids, I am doing something with the green economy. I am focused on the green. So we have a very strong ESG focused approach. So it's a nice thing to have. Conscious of time, so maybe I'll hand over for questions at this stage to Ronan.
First up, how much is typically invested in each EGT project?
I'll probably jump in. So we've got at the moment, one could say, 2 substantial projects. One is the rare earth assets, and the second was a copper one. I think Jack has made it clear, less than 20% of their original fundraise of 6.4, probably substantially, will be in Sweden. So Sweden will be somewhere between 600,000 and 800,000 euros between now and Christmas. And that is the point when we need to look at monetizing. By monetizing, we're not flipping. It's bringing a serious partner who will pay us, and we get a carried interest. The other asset, the copper, again, probably substantially less than 20% again. Recycling tailings is not capital expensive. We bring in partners for the recycling element, so we try and pull all the strands together. So that allows us room for 3 more when we review substantial projects.
I had a question. You mentioned the copper extraction, and someone else has asked, direct copper extraction, what does that mean? What sort of technology are you going to be using?
Look, again, I think we'd be probably better leave that to Aidan, our senior geologist, and the people. But direct copper extraction, the people would have seen in Jack's one, basically going back to chemistry class in school, there is, I think, 50 million tons of copper tailings back in that rather large hole in the ground. There was a lake at the bottom. There is water going on the top. There's a river coming out the bottom. And from all our chemistry class at school, there's blue water coming out. That's copper sulfate. It's quite simple to extract a copper concentrate from copper sulfate. So that would be a very simple off-the-shelf processing. It can be hired plant. And being honest, within the first year of exercise, they say it's only an option. We might exercise in 3 or 4 or 5, 6 months. We might not exercise at all. But if we exercise it, within 12 months, we could be producing quite a substantial amount of called copper cementation, which is 93% of the value of pure copper ore. So yeah, so does that answer the question, Ron?
I think so. Next one, how long do you expect the due diligence to take in Cyprus?
We don't mess around. Bear in mind, Aidan has worked in this project into 2017, so 2-3 months maximum, maybe even less.
Okay. Next one, do you see the need to raise any further capital via dilution on a short-term basis, or is the company fully funded to pursue the distressed assets mentioned?
The company is fully funded. I have one golden rule: never raise cash unless the share price doubles, preferably triples, because in all these projects, I'm the largest shareholder. At the IPO, I'd put in a substantial, probably well over $500,000 pre-IPO. At the IPO, I wrote a check for 300,000 at 10p. So I hate raising money. If the share price doubles or triples, yes, for the right opportunity, we will look at potentially raising money. If we play our cards right, we may not have to raise money for a very long period of time. But we don't ever raise money unless we create value for shareholders.
Next question, what kind of infrastructure is on site in Cyprus already, if any?
There is a number of geologists. There is a very large copper tailing project. We are dealing with a partner there who has spent quite a bit of money on it in recent years. They've had it there for 2.5 years. So that basically all these projects are virtual, a bit like we keep our company virtual. We don't like offices. We don't like headquarters. We don't like expensive staff. So infrastructure is a number of pretty well-to-do local geologists and a principal who put their own cash into the project.
I think the question was asking power, access,
Yeah, so there's a substation very close. There's like this. There's an access roads. This was a significant mine back in the day, and so the infrastructure was built up there when they took 8 million tons out of the ground. So there's a lot of that infrastructure we can leverage very quickly, which is very beneficial.
And final question for me, if I may, just to reconfirm, when you went through the assets currently in the company, that you've got a couple of disposals you're looking to achieve. Is that correct? And again, within the next year, I don't think you were mentioned on your kind of news timetable. To expect those to be, if I got that correct, you're expecting to dispose of a couple of assets. Would they be within this?
Ron, the reason I emphasize we're not a mining company, mining companies never produce cash. I think I've invested about a dozen. I've never seen my investment back. I've never seen one of them produce a single ounce of product is sold. But you can make money by moving licenses around. We have said we've deprioritized the lithium, we've deprioritized the graphite and copper. I think we can prove to market we generate the best is monetize those assets because we are focusing. So that would be one form of asset generation. Two, we think we can bring in money for shareholders on the rare earths if we produce the results we expect. So Jack says there will be regular news flow over the coming weeks and months on that. And then we're experts at buying and selling things. And then finally, there's something wrong if we're not generating revenue in the very near term from that copper project. That's before we come. I've kind of guided the market. We have funds for 3 more low-cost projects.
Gentlemen, thank you both very much indeed. Jack, Cathal, thank you very much for joining us this evening.